welcome to today's edition of the Bradley Hall Show. I am your host, the Bradley Hall. All right. First, I wanted to just quickly say thank you for listening. Thank you for your support. If you enjoy our content, please share it with friends and family or even strangers on social media and help us get the word out. We certainly would appreciate it. Also, if you are interested in finding out more about me and or working with me, please visit my website at www.thebradleyhall.com. Also, please check out my new online academy, Life in Truth Academy. It's an online academy dedicated to education for mental health, physical health, and spiritual health. I think you'll like what we have there. Please check it out, www.lifeintruthacademy.com. And again, we appreciate your support, and I'll get you back to your content. Today, my guest is my good friend, Dani Doran. Dani is here today to discuss the power of cycles with our physical and mental health, as well as female empowerment. And she's going to talk a little bit about how that plays into her new program designed for women. Please welcome Dani Doran. So I just realized I haven't done a podcast in a while, and you were the last one I did. Funny.
Gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah. I just, so here we are, Dani Doran part 2. Is it Doran or Doran?
Doran.
Doran. Okay. Dani Doran part 2. So good. I'm glad you're here. Glad to have you. How long ago was that?
It was in the summer.
Wasn't
it? It was warm out. It definitely didn't have snow on the ground when we did it.
September.
I want to say, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. You're right. I had just started the business. I just got my LLC. September 18th was that day. Okay.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a while. I've been slacking, but you're going to kick this off. You're going to be the first one in a series. I think I'm just going to start doing them monthly. And be a little more. I did like 25 in like 6 months, and I can't keep up that pace. But so you're kicking off the new year. Besides, 2020 just kind of sucked ass, didn't it?
See, I have yes, in a lot of ways, but my personal experience was a really, really great one. So it's hard for me to express that a little bit because I know for a lot of people it was a lot different.
Yeah, I actually share that sentiment to an extent. I mean, the external circumstances were intense, but it forced a lot of personal growth on my part. For a lot of people, I think really, there were people that were aware it was happening and it was really good for them. There were people that weren't really aware that it was happening that were kind of forced to change. And I think it was a little harder on them, but I do think in the end, we're all going to be better off because of it.
Oh,
don't
completely.
You?
I see it so much.
Yeah.
In the quiet space. I mean, it's like what meditation offers.
Yeah.
Like, is this going to be distracting to sit on a ball? So sometimes I'm moving a little.
I don't know. We'll find out in the YouTube comments, right?
Yeah. Like, tell her to stop bouncing. I'm not like going crazy or anything, but sometimes I just need some movement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to have a little bit of disclaimer before we get into this. I want to tell the people listening that for my guy listeners, you could probably get some nuggets out of this one, but this is probably a little bit more geared towards the ladies, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. I just want to let people know that. I don't want a guy to get 45 minutes in and be like, what in the hell was all that? I want to kind of give you a little bit of a disclaimer. This is more geared towards females. Not that, I mean, there's going to be a lot of wisdom in here. I think anybody could get some stuff out of it, but I don't want somebody to feel like they could have spent their time, better doing something else. But if you're a guy and you don't want to tune in, share it with the lady in your life and let her listen, right?
Definitely. Well, and I see value in men knowing this because I'm not actually speaking to, yes, I'm using the menstrual cycle as like your foundation and base, but the mindfulness and the cyclical talk is present in our everyday life also.
Agreed.
So the moon cycles and things like that. So I actually think if you're open to seeing like the larger picture, that I'm more or less talking about disrupting a pattern, which you could then translate into your life, regardless if you're male or female.
Agreed. Agreed. And I figured that we were going to get into that conversation pretty deep. So um, I just wanted people to know
Yeah.
that this is going to be, it's going to have the M word in it that we've already used. And if you're adverse to that, then check us out the next episode. If not, stick with us. We always have a great conversation and a lot to talk about. So, um, ironically, the last time we talked, we did talk about 2020 as well. We were smack dab in the middle of it. Tell us what you're doing now. Let's go that direction.
Yeah. So my business is up and running. The Wildfire Within. I am in the midst of a coaching certification, um, the Sex and Happiness Apprenticeship and Certification Program with Lori Handlers and Brianna Kribire. Um, I am still an owner of a local Cleveland restaurant and a mom to twins and a stepmom to my 14-year-old stepdaughter.
Okay, so let's get grumpies out of the way, right?
Okay.
Let's tell everybody, if you're in Cleveland now, go to Grumpy's right now. If you're going to be in Cleveland, make a plan to go when you get there, right?
Yes.
Tell us about Grumpy's real quick.
So we have been in Cleveland serving breakfast for over 20 years, but this location we've been there, we hit 14 years this January. So that was a big milestone for us. But we serve breakfast from 7 a.m. until 2 p.m. every day, 7 days a week. Pancakes, omelets, corned beef hash, everything we make from scratch. So we're a scratch kitchen. Cajun home fries are our side dish that everyone knows about.
All right.
They come and get. And it's just a really fun space. When you walk in there, it's got a real homey space to it. So we have local artists on the wall that change every month. So the atmosphere kind of changes with that feel, right? Like whatever artwork is up there. And Tremont is the neighborhood that we're in, which it's a very artsy neighborhood and it's big on community. Obviously, COVID kind of has downplayed a little bit of that, but you can definitely get the feel that people are supporting, that everyone around is supporting each other. So
good.
Yeah, it's a good vibe, and our breakfast is like no other.
Okay, so is that for the people who are going to go for the first time? That's you recommend them to start there with breakfast?
Definitely. It something that we just recently switched since we opened after COVID, because we did close for 5 months.
Mm-hmm.
Breakfast has been the thing that people always talk about the most.
Okay.
So I've been shooting this idea out there that, hey, let's just serve it all day. Let's just serve it all day and do it. But we would get a big crowd from downtown that really loved our lunch. And so we thought we might kind of toy around with the atmosphere in that sense. They loved coming and being able to get, salads and sandwiches and soups and things like that. So we still have that on the menu. But, COVID has, for me, given me a little bit more permission to do what, we want to do. And we said, let's give it a try. And now 80% of what we sell is breakfast, and people are loving it. They're thanking us for being able to get it all day, because we offered it all day on the weekends. But then during the week, it shifted to having breakfast during the morning and lunch in the afternoon, which I felt was a little confusing for people because they could get it at, 2 in the afternoon on a Saturday.
Yeah.
And they were coming to us then. So it's been kind of fun to watch that shift play out, and people just really love our breakfast. So
yeah, that's there's a bigger point from a business, from a marketing standpoint, from an entrepreneurial standpoint, is that you paid attention to the trends and you listened to your customers and you adjusted. I'm sure that when you started this restaurant, you didn't imagine that breakfast was going to be the staple of what you were going to do. Figured it was probably going to be a part, but not really the cornerstone. And it sounds like you just kind of rolled with it and taken advantage of the opportunities, right?
Yeah, it's kind of been the way I play the entrepreneurial game. It's
Smart.
That's my role. I run the restaurant with my mom, and she's the good, stable, like, let's keep the things the way that they are. This feels good and comfortable. And this really
You're the
plays into
radical
the role.
hippie who wants to
Yeah.
try new things, and yeah, that's
Yes. And
awesome.
let's push the envelope, disrupt the pattern. That's, kind of what I'm doing. The name of my new business as well. I realized it's a gift to be able to push the envelope just a little bit and say, hey, I know that this change may not feel super comfortable, but it's kind of what's being called for right now. So let's give it a shot. And thankfully, at least at the restaurant there, we have a backing. We have, 14 years, 20 plus years in another location and behind us. So it's not as um, worrisome because our following is solid.
Yeah, yeah. But I would think, I mean, I'm sure crazier things have happened. I would think if you've made it this far through COVID, that you're probably going to survive.
I hope
And knock
it's
on wood. I don't
still
mean to jinx anything or
I
anything like
know
that.
it's still a worry that we live with. But thankfully it doesn't look the same as it looked before COVID for sure. But it's enough to keep us where we're at right now. So for that, we're thankful that we still get to do what we love and meet people every day and cook really good food. So we're gonna keep rolling with it as long as we can.
Yeah, yeah. Now I met a guy here in Southwest Florida that had owned restaurants throughout his life, and out of his own pockets, he opened a new Mexican restaurant, and he brought family members on board to work for him. And about 2 or 3 weeks later is when the COVID thing happened. And
Mm,
we had just talked to him a couple of weeks after it started, and they've closed down. He couldn't. He was writing all the checks, and they just couldn't survive. And I'm sure you could probably tell dozens of stories of it, being in the industry of restaurants that didn't make it. So I'm grateful that you were able to survive this.
yeah, thank you. Me too. It's been a ride, um, that's for sure. But we've taken advantage of the loans that are available and really tried to put it into our staff and make sure that they are um, well and comfortable. And
Yeah,
that's the really great thing about the shift in this is my new company. Um, I'm supporting my staff in a totally different way than I was being there in presence with them every day at the restaurant. I'm working with them and coaching them individually. So just as people, they
yeah,
feel that they're getting something more than just a job. Um, and I think that has shifted my energy into supporting them differently so that they're with us for, the long haul.
yeah. I like that. I do like that because this is what people normally need. This is what companies should be giving back to their employees anyway. But in particular, with what we've been through, it's it's like it's the most boring apocalypse ever. I keep saying that,
I
it
like that.
it shouldn't feel like the whole world has collapsed, but it does. It's heavy, and uh, you know the things. I think people are waking up to the things that going out to dinner, going to the movies, going to the park, going to parties, whatever the case may be, sporting events. Those are the things that relieved tension. They were therapeutic to us.
Mm,
And now suddenly, when we didn't have those, it tells us one thing: one, that we had an outlet that we didn't know we had. So we think we're a little stressed or we're not stressed, but it's because we had an outlet to get rid of it, and that's certainly the first part of it. But the second part of that is not having that outlet really compounds everything else, and all the normal things that are a little troublesome suddenly are magnified 10, 20,
mm.
30 times over. And And we've seen that accumulative effect. And I deal with people every day, and I know you do too. It's just become overwhelming for people, and people don't understand why. That's the thing. I mean, because it's the most boring apocalypse ever. They're like, I'm healthy. I can eat. I'm not starving. Most people, there are a lot of people who lost their jobs and are worried about the economy, getting unemployment, that kind of thing. But for the most part, most people are in a similar condition to where they were a year ago. It just feels so much different. And I know that the organization that I work for is trying very hard to reach people like you're reaching people. I think it's commendable that you're doing that. And that's the kind of thing that I was talking about a few minutes ago, that I hope those are the type of permanent changes, that other restaurants see you survived, and you have employee loyalty, and people want to stay there and they're happy, and they're like, hey, I don't care why they do it, as long as as long as they do it, as long as they mimic it. That's how we start new trends. That's how we change lives, we change generations. So that's the kind of stuff that I hope we see out of this from all across the board, not just the restaurant industry, but everywhere, that people really stop, and companies think about their employees' well-being, but people stop and start thinking about their own well-being,
Mm-hmm.
which is why they need to pay attention to what we're getting ready to talk about, right?
Yeah, I wanted to mention something too, is that in this in this time of quiet, it's very much tied in my head to the way that cyclical living is, basically what I'm here to talk about, but also it's apparent everywhere. So if we look at the death and rebirth of everything, that that's what COVID, for me at least, left a space for, is the dying of the things that really, maybe they served you in a sense, like you said, going to the movies and doing this and doing that. But what if, letting all of those fall away and seeing like what is there, like bare minimum, what is there, and where can I, connect with the people around me more? Kind of, the dying of the self. And then now here we're in springtime and seeing kind of little bits and pieces of light shining through, some lightness to the game. Looking forward, that we have this opportunity to birth what's to come in ourselves and how we want to show up in the world. Which I think, like you said, people were not necessarily aware of why they're upset or why these things are happening, but they are. So how can we use it to understand ourselves better, and to give a hand to everyone else out there and be there to um, support our community and the world, for that matter.
Yeah, I like that. Let's run with this, shall we?
Yeah.
So I'm the kind of guy, I like to really break things down, and I'm real big on the things that we do and we don't know why we do them.
Mhm.
And one of the things that's interesting is that in the winter time is technically a time for hibernation.
Mhm.
And I think that's why we have the Christmas, the holiday traditions that we have. All right. So in the wintertime, it's a time of death coming into the rebirth into spring, and we would hibernate. But from a human standpoint, that could be pretty depressing when you don't have access to the sun and it's cold. And I'm talking about old timey cold. I'm talking about, it may be 12 degrees outside, and the only thing keeping you warm is a fireplace or a fire, and you're bringing wood in, the family. That's it. That's all you got. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. And so it would seem natural that they decorate things with bright colors, and I'm sure that it have Christmas lights, but bright colors of red and gold and green, that kind of thing, to brighten their spirits. But the so with that said, when you look at it, it really was a time to slow down, right? We farmed, agriculture took place in the spring and the summer and the fall, and you packed your food for the winter. You packed your weight on, knowing you were going to lose it in the winter, and you better have enough fat on you to survive through the winter because food might run out. That kind of. So people really did slow down, which is why the holidays are a time for families to come together. People really did slow down. And isn't it ironic in our modern society that it has become just the opposite. The holidays are they're just crazy. They're just intense and crazy, and you can't wait for them to get over. And I just find that fascinating that we've done that as human beings. That we've had. And so, with that said, last year when COVID started and we just shut everything down, I had said to many people, what this has shown us is that we should take a month out of every year, like February, and just shut everything down. Everything, restaurants shut, everything just shuts down. Retail stores, everything shuts down. Everything just shuts down. And everybody spend time at home, and everybody slow down and recharge your batteries. And it'll never happen. It'll never happen. But ideally it should, from the cyclical standpoint that you're talking about.
And it could. I mean, and let's talk about, little things, right? There's people that I hear that do, no alcohol in January. They do no Instagram or social media for a month and things like that. And I'm seeing that trend a little bit more. So I'd like to say that we're moving a little bit in that direction of noticing that need for disconnect, because we've been so, connected or ambushed by the energies of the holidays. But yeah, what you're speaking to is exactly cyclical living. And so when you notice the seasons in nature, so like you're saying, winter time is a time for hibernation, which with that comes introspection, reflection. When we say, seasonal depression, I don't want to deny somebody of their truth if they feel that's really true. But for me, it's more a dishonoring of what the season is there to show you. So maybe that's an imbalance in the food that you're putting into your body. Maybe that's emotions that are stored in your body that you're really not interested in seeing. And so it feels like anxiety. It's the deeper understanding of the things that we experience in our human body that I think in general, the world is maybe starting to touch on this, right? Which is why you and I are speaking of it, but it's not something that's practiced in the business world, in the corporate setting, on Amazon or any of those spaces, which makes it very hard to live cyclically in a non-cyclical world, right? So we're not honoring the natural seasons. And do you mind if I take this into my connecting it to the female body?
No, please do. That's why we're here.
Yeah. So honoring the seasons in nature and knowing the energies that they bring. So we've already defined what winter is, right? Spring is, I think of flowers that are just starting to poke through the soil, right? So they're just letting the first pieces of themselves touch the sunlight. They're not fully in bloom yet. They're just coming out and beginning to kind of tiptoe into the world. Summertime, the energy for me is basking in the sunshine, right? Like you're full on, you're fully present. You're like, yes, this feels amazing. And then fall time comes around and we have transition. We have the starting to see the little bits that are maybe needing to change some so that those can die off in the winter, and then you can rebuild your energy and come back out in the spring. So with all of those defined, that's exactly what the female body experiences every 30 days. So when we talk about a menstrual cycle, let's say 28 to 32 days or so, it's different for everyone, but every week-ish or so, they float through wintertime is menstruation. Wintertime is when a woman needs to take care of her body, quiet down, slow down, rest. And then moving into springtime, her body is saying, oh my gosh, I literally shedded pieces of myself, right? If we're getting
literally
detailed here. Yeah, there's pieces of yourself that are not in your body anymore. And then
that's let's stop on that for a second.
Yeah,
it's traumatic. It's an injury.
Yes.
It truly.
I don't know. I don't like the word injury, but I know where you're going with it.
Yeah. So it's metaphorically an injury. It's something that it's a loss of your body, and your body has to repair what is lost. It takes energy. It requires energy for that to happen.
Yes.
That was my point,
Yes.
the healing part of
Yeah.
it.
I was following you.
I know.
It
But thanks for making me clarify in case someone else wasn't catching. So go ahead.
definitely. So then springtime, we have, you know, well, let me take back to winter. So wintertime also, if we use it for everything that it is good for, we've sat with some things. Just like in right now, I don't have much to do. I'm not going outside a whole lot. It's wintertime. Outside here, that's really what I experience through menstruation. So menstruation, if you take away all of the outside stimulus, all of the things flood into your brain of like, oh, this is, maybe what's going on. Maybe I should, take a dance class, or maybe I could do this, or hey, this is all the to do things that I need to do, or, really give yourself time to reflect and soak up the energies that are coming into you. It's actually a very psychic time for women if they can get quiet enough to honor that in their bodies. Then we get to spring where it's like, okay, I saw those things in wintertime. Now I get to kind of play around with it. And this is where, for me, can be a little bit of an imbalance, which is where, a period coach or a menstruation coach or something could come into play, is that my body wants to go like, yeah, summertime, like I'm feeling better. I don't need rest anymore. Let's go.
Right.
And that's where some of the imbalance can come because your body isn't ready yet to go like full bore, head first into everything. Um, and then so on and so on. So summertime is a really great in a woman's body to bring on the extra weights in their work out a little bit harder because their energy is high, right? We can speak fluidly and articulate is a really great time. So these are all the little intricate moments that if you pay attention to the seasons in your body, you can recognize what each season is good for and how you can utilize it. So I could go on for a long time about all of this. So let me know. Are you following?
Oh, yeah, more than you realize. I've
Okay.
got a lot to add, but I just want to let you go. I want to listen to you.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So then comes fall. And so summertime is also ovulation. So ovulation is when you have the opportunity to make a child. So if we look at that as maybe it's a child, maybe it's not a child, but it's a form of creation. So we could also look at each, like if you're not ready, to bear a child, you look at ovulation in summertime as this time to what are you using? What are you doing with your creative energy that you've sat with during wintertime and really saw as something that maybe, you wanted to bring into the world? Put pieces and parts of it together in springtime and kind of, touched a little bit on it and started to build up your energy for it. And then summertime, you said, here I am, world. This is my creative piece. That's also where ovulation can come into play because for a lot of women, that's making a baby. So that's creating something in your actual body. And then comes fall. So fall, and these all have different phrases for them too, which I'm not using the scientific terms here because I feel for people that are just jumping on board to the knowledge in itself. It's a lot. Um, it feels better to use terms that we use on a regular basis, right? Fall, winter, spring, and summer.
Yeah, absolutely. For comparison reasons. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
But so fall, it's your luteal phase. But it's the time where most women talk about having PMS, right? Which I think is just a load of shit because fall is actually your truth telling time. So, fall is a time that you are probably going to experience a lot of tension. You are going to see everything that you have neglected in yourself for your entire season, right? Your entire cycle. So, all of the seasons combined. You are going to see the pieces and parts of yourself that maybe you needed to hold a boundary somewhere and you didn't. And so it turns up as rage or anger in your fall phase because you didn't honor that in yourself when you saw it earlier. So fall is it was a really potent time for me to see this space because society has told us that you're supposed to feel this way. You're just supposed to be a bitch during this time. So basically, whatever I say, if it's a week before my period, you can just discredit me because it's just a low, you're just hormonal.
Yeah. I want to, let's expand on that a little bit.
Hmm.
And I know exactly what you meant, that society says that you're just expected to be a bitch.
Hmm.
But I think society, and we could talk about this in all kinds of shapes and forms, male or
Hmm.
female, doesn't matter. But society expects a baseline. And then when you deviate from that, which is what you're talking about, when you deviate from that, you go below that, for terrible analogy, with the PMS, then something's wrong with you, and that's why you're dismissed. So there's a very negative connotation with it that I know you know that way better than I do. But I think we need to acknowledge that, and I'll talk a little bit about this with cycles too, because I feel this way about I believe depression is tremendously overdiagnosed. You can't just run at 100% all the time without backing off and giving your body. I didn't say that the way I wanted to say it. You just can't maintain. We have this baseline, and they just keep raising the baseline and raising the baseline and raising the baseline, and we just go 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 go. I read somewhere recently that the average American takes in like 150 newspapers worth of information a day. And if you think about 200 or 300 years ago, they were lucky they took in a newspaper a week. I mean, you probably had some wealthier people in some wealthier areas that got the newspaper every day, but some people that wasn't a thing. And we just maintain and maintain. And I think sometimes what's being diagnosed as depression is the body's way of pulling back and regenerating in this cycle that we're talking about. So I, I want everybody to know we have never talked about cycles before that I'm aware. Have we?
You and I know.
Yeah, I am huge on this, especially I want to add to this. I'm not only believe in the lunar cycles for both men and women.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in daily cycles.
Mm-hmm.
You should plan your day around these cycles and know what works for you and what doesn't. With sleep being the hibernation period, and it doesn't quite work out to 6 hours because you have some people sleep 8 hours, but there's still the cycle that is involved. And the other thing is a dietary standpoint, from an annual standpoint. We're eating the same food over and over and over and over again. And 400 years ago, you didn't have that luxury. You ate salads in the spring because there was new grass and broccoli and lettuce was available because it's a cool crop. And then you ate corn in the summertime, and or in the wintertime you had your harvest, and then you canned things, and then you ate. That's why hunting season's in winter, because you had to go out. You had food stores that were supposed to last all winter. So to supplement that, you went out and you hunted an animal in the winter and tried to use that as well. So I'm huge on cycles. Huge. Just wanted to pop that in there.
I love it. See, this is what I'm speaking to, really is for any bodied person, right? Because once you honor those cycles, whether it be in your body or whether you see them in nature, whether you see them in the moon, once you kind of can wrap your head around the idea, you begin to see it everywhere. And it really has benefited my life a lot and supported me in knowing that I don't have to be at that baseline all the time. I can be, high at some point and feel really, really great, and then not be so terrified of the low points because they're there for me to either ask for help and support or just, comfort myself in new ways that I haven't done before.
Give yourself permission to just lay down on the couch and do nothing without feeling guilty.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds so minor,
Uh-huh.
but it is a major accomplishment for many people to just.
Oh,
I can't get my wife to stop. She sits down and then she pops up and she'll go do something else and come back and sit back down. And then she's like, "Oh, I forgot." And she'll get up and do something. I mean, we're all guilty.
yep.
And we need to give ourselves permission for that downtime. Go ahead. I
Yeah.
love it. I love it.
Well, and playing off of what you're saying too, is it's really helped me a lot in to frame my month in this cyclical way, because I can look forward to the times where I know I'm going to need the rest and plan it. So I am a decent planner, right? Like when you are managing kids' schedules and you have work and multiple businesses and things like that, my schedule is it's not as intricate as it used to be, but I go ahead and take a look at what's to come. And so I know what my body can handle. And by all means, it's not perfect. I can't, you'll schedule something and all of a sudden, your cycle will change a bit by a couple days, and, you bend and weave with that. But I know, when I take a look at my week, hey, I'm going to be hitting the dead of winter come next month or come next week. That's why I got a massage today. I know that my body and my, the tension that I hold on certain days and what it is that I need. So does living cyclically mean that I am also trying to reach that baseline? No. It means that I can find a better balance, that the highs aren't so high and the lows aren't so low, but I can also prepare for the times where I know I'm going to need it a little bit more. So like in summer, right? In like mid ovulation, I plan like a girls get together or something to where I can be really social. I can be seen. I can be heard. I'm around people, that lift me up because I'm feeling really good. It's also when we can look in the mirror and see a little bit more of ourselves and, might like how you look a little bit more better or, like, because when you think about what is ovulation time for your body, your time for ovulation is to attract a mate. Your body is literally like saying like, hey, I'm getting ready. I got an egg. Let's do something with it.
That's right. That's right.
And so you can see like, and so I'm speaking to all the ways where we can be in alignment. So like at that point, yes, I feel really great being seen. But for some women, let's talk about the imbalances. That here is where maybe summertime, as much as I love basking in the sun and putting on a bathing suit and being out and being around people, other people that may be the very epitome of what feels good to them. Right. And so from a coaching perspective, I would really see what is holding you back from being truly seen? What aren't you seeing in yourself that you are, holding back from the world? And I've worked through these things myself as well. And I'll tell you, coming out with my business and taking on coaching clients and having a greater presence on social media, I have needed way more support in my spring and summertime because it's a stretch for me, right? Like I'm not ready to fully be seen in that, but I know it's something I want to do. So that's been a little hard for me. So that's where the coaching aspect can come in too, is where working with someone to try to understand what imbalances you're feeling in your body, how it relates to what season you're in, and then the steps that you can take or maybe the tools that you can gain to help you through those difficult, those imbalances.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So much I want to say here. So the first thing I want to touch on is that there's going to be an argument, there's going to be pushback, or at least thoughts. I mean, I don't, not that big a deal, but when you were talking about that the ovulation time is a time that women want to be seen, like, hey, I want to make a baby. And there are going to be people who are going to refute that. But people should know that there's no shame in that because that's the way we're built.
Mm.
There are two things that humans are designed to do: survive and reproduce. That's it. And reproduction comes in the survival part. And eating is part of the survival. So we're born this way. And I think this gets off into a psychological tangent, which I'm, really good at. Good's the word you want to use.
Proficient.
It's when we can understand exactly what you said, that we are designed that way, that the beautiful things begin to happen when we can embrace it. It doesn't mean that it controls your life. It doesn't. You're not excusing women to be over vain or men to be over vain or anything like that, or use that as an excuse for risky behavior. We're just simply acknowledging our nature as a mammal on the planet and the biological functions that happen. And so I think that's critical for people to understand. It is okay to understand that your body has a drive to be seen, to mate, whether you intend to do it or not. And whatever you want to do with that is fine, but you need that piece to really understand it so you don't repress it. Repression is when bad things happen, when we pretend that we're not sexual beings, that we're not here to reproduce, and we try to make that go away, and we think we're above that, and we repress it. It's one of two things going to happen. It's going to come out in a shadow side with uh, with risky behavior and affairs or porn addictions or those type of things, or it's going to manifest into major depression and or types of neuroses that cause actual psychological issues. So I wanted to point that out. That's huge that people really understand that. If there was anybody, because it sounds vain, right? That a woman wants to be seen, and some people are going to say, "Well, she shouldn't." Well,
Yeah, I guess
the
so.
way we're
Tell me,
designed.
I think that clarifies it a little bit. So, what is your version of being seen?
Well,
You or how you interpreted
I think that's a
the
great. I
Yeah,
think
I would
that's
love to
I think that
clarify that.
I think that's a great question. I think that's a great question to clarify. Um, you know, you're not trying to rope me into a.
What? No,
You're
I'm
not setting
actually
me up, are you?
no,
Um,
I'm looking into, and I don't mean, so let me go here then. I don't mean seen as in nude or
no,
um
no, no. I didn't
right?
mean
Like we're
that.
not
No, no,
saying, okay,
no,
so
no, no,
I'm
no, no.
saying seen as in, like, if we look at the energy that comes with summertime and ovulation, right? If we go ahead and say that your body is literally preparing to create something,
Right,
okay? So, yes, you have sexual energy behind it because that's how your body is made. But we also can recognize that it's a way to, for me, it was having a bigger presence on social media and actually speaking to things that I care about. For me, that's being seen. That's being
right.
seen in the light that I am saying it's a little bit, it feels raw, but it feels like I'm actually willing to show my true self and speak the things that I have been learning and speaking about kind of just with
Right.
my close circle, but being seen in the way that, okay, here you go, world. I'm
Yeah,
willing to piss some people off that may not resonate with me, but this is, here I am,
yeah. It's true expression,
right?
and it could be
Yeah.
something. It could be something as simple as just a woman going and getting her hair and nails done, and wanting to come home and show her husband. I mean,
Yeah.
it's something, or just not even wanting to show her husband, just wanting in, in the COVID era to just wanting to take a shower and put on some real clothes and actually go somewhere. You know,
Yeah.
yeah. I didn't mean anything deviant by that at all, and
Oh, yeah.
but I know that there's there is a lot of opposition there, and there's religious opposition, there's psychological opposition, people talking about the ego and that kind of thing.
Mm,
And the religious opposition, I'm not real concerned about. The ego, the psychological aspect of the ego, I I I embrace that 100%. But I do think there's when I was a firefighter, there were things that we learned in the classroom, and then there was the way we did them on the street. And I think that's what we're talking about here. There's ways we can live. There's ideological.
Try it again.
Uh, we can live ideologically. Why can't I say that right now?
I don't even know if I know that word. I Ideologically? Is that a word?
Ideologic. Let's find a new word, shall we? Uh,
Give it another shot. You
so,
can do it.
all right. No, I'm gonna change the way I was gonna say it. Um, there, there's there's the idea of the way we should live, and there's the reality of the way we can live. And to my knowledge, there's only one person that just about everybody can agree lived their life perfectly, and there arguably there's a couple more, and we're talking billions of humans. So it's not realistically to live perfectly. We still are humans. We still have biological drives, and we have things we have to work out. So I think that goes back to what I was saying a minute ago. Just understanding that it's okay. This is our drive, um, and how that works in is the key. That's what we're talking about, right? The awareness of just the awareness of who we are and what we are.
Yeah, I think, are you speaking to choice? right? So like you're learning these ideas, but you get to choose how
Well,
you want to bring them into your life or how you want to translate them so that they work for you.
I wasn't, but we can. I mean, I was simply just bringing about the point for anyone that may not have understood what you meant about wanting to be seen, or someone who may have pushed back, and maybe not even anyone listening, but just in general, that's egotistical, that's materialistic, that's something we shouldn't. I was kind of clarifying that's our drive. That's who we are. We want to be understood. We
Mm.
want people to see us. We want to. So I guess a little bit of my background, and what I do with what I teach is expressionism. I think that lack of expressionism is the basic foundation of depression. And I think there's two things. There's what we talked about, not being able to balance and keep the baseline, and which you had said a minute ago about reducing highs and lows, and I think that is critical. I think that should be a life goal, people to reduce the highs and lows. But I think the bigger picture is learning how to balance them on the baseline. So if you do something that's extreme and really high, that you give yourself the time to match that on a low, to be able to balance it back out and bring it down the baseline, which goes back to what I was talking about earlier. We just come up here and we stay up here, stay up here. Well, your body will figure out how to bring you back down real quick. That's when we get sick. So when we get depressed and we can't, and I shouldn't throw depression around. I don't mean to throw depression around like I'm throwing, because from a medical standpoint, I mean, there's clinical depression. I just think the depression is overdiagnosed. And sometimes what
Sure.
we're calling
And I
depression is this need to balance out the highs, like I was just talking about.
mm, yeah. And my interpretation of when you said depression and that was like a quietness, right? Like a deeper need for
Just
introspection and
right. Yeah, just to
yeah.
pull back. And I posted something yesterday on Facebook actually about that very thing. Sometimes I just personally disappear. I can't. I recently have gone through a phase in the last couple months where um, I started my PhD program in October.
Hmm.
For one, I experienced some unusual loss in recently, and we've had some family things happen that aren't traumatic, but they were still traumatic for us.
Hmm.
Um, and I have had a lot of people that saw something was different with me reach out to me and wanting to, I think, repay me for some of the things I do for them. But I do it differently. When I do that, I want you to just leave me alone.
Mm.
I need, and so I pulled away, and some of those people were coming at me saying, how can we help? Let me help you. And I just, the best thing they could do for me is to just, when I'm done, to be standing right where they are and let me come back to them. So that's what I'm talking about with the introspection, like you're talking about. We all handle it different. Sometimes we need people around. Sometimes we don't need people around, whatever the case may be. But it's that honoring yourself that you talked about earlier, just giving your yourself a chance to regenerate however you need to do it.
Definitely. Yeah. What I'm hearing you say is that your introspection looks like alone time and support in that looks like be on the phone when I give you a call when I'm ready to emerge again.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And don't ask me about it when I come back around. Happy go lucky. Let's not talk about it. And that means I put it behind me and we're moving on. But it
Yeah. Or
looks
wait
different
till
for
I
everyone.
bring it up.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
up
Yeah.
to you to start the conversation about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so I don't know how we got off on that, but anyway, we got way far away.
Yeah. A little bit.
Where do we need? Where do we need to go to get back?
um,
This is when conversations are good, though. When you can just
it is. We were, let's see, I had just touched on imbalances,
okay.
right? So, how you can use your cycle to see pieces of yourself and how it works for you. Um, but a lot of why people are interested in this type of work or these conversations are because they are feeling the imbalances. And so I gave an example of, you know, not not feeling comfortable in being seen. Or at that point, your PMS or your unease in the time before your menstruation comes. Um, so that's really where I can take this is mindfulness meditation. So that's the other piece. I don't know that I've mentioned this yet, but I created a program, which is why we're here.
Right.
to
I've
um,
tried like 3 or 4 times to get you to talk about it, and
I know,
you
and
just won't.
it's still hard for me to kind of define it because I'm just really enjoying speaking to this out loud. So then to try and step into speaking of it and try to like sell myself in it is it's a little funky for me. So thank you for bearing with me.
Well,
Um,
you're welcome, but I don't, first of all, I wanna say that I'm really proud of you because I've been trying to push you to something like this for a while, uh, and, I think you're amazing, I really do, and I'm glad that we've been able to connect, and I felt it, and naturally so, in as our relationship developed, I felt your resistance to move forward with something like this,
mm,
and sometimes it takes time to develop in its own, and I think it has.
like
But
COVID.
I think what you have, I mean, I want you to do something like this a year and a half ago, but I've read what you've put out, and I know you well enough that you don't have to sell it. I just want you to talk about it
Mm,
because it's going to sell itself. The people that are going to hear it that are it's going to resonate with are just going to be drawn to it. You don't want people in it that don't belong in it, right? So
no,
there's nothing
yeah,
to sell, but it's an
it's
amazing program, and I just want you to talk about it. No
thank
pressure.
you,
You're welcome.
thank you. So I'm looking for it to be a small group of women. Um, I have learned immensely in community with others. And when I learned how my body works cyclically and in mindfulness meditation, so much of it was done on our own, right? Like,
Yeah.
remember our program that we went through? We were like, yay, we're so ready to teach other people. And then it's like, wait, spend all of this time by yourself
Yeah.
doing these meditations. And for me, I was like, I don't, whoa, that's crazy for me. Um, but I needed it. And it's what led to the, awakening of how important these things are to me. Um, but what the program will look like is 12 weeks of support. Um, we'll meet 1 hour each week and read the book, Wild Power. So this is my Bible. You could see it's like written in and, all gross. My kids have colored on pages of it. And I look at it all the time. But so the author is Alexandra Pope and Sarni Hugo Wurlitzer. They're founders of the Red School, which are people, a group that I follow a lot. But they will be going through the book and reading chapter by chapter, learning about our seasons, learning about the power that we have, being female and having the ups and the downs, and also being able to connect to something that's a little bit larger than ourselves, right? Once you connect to the seasons in your body, like I said earlier, like you're connecting to the seasons in nature, then you're seeing cyclical things everywhere. So you just kind of get this larger picture of how everything is connected. So throughout the 12 weeks, we'll be speaking to a lot of that. We'll be doing a lot of mindfulness meditation. So the idea is that the women interested are really looking to develop a mindfulness meditation practice of their own. So my role as a facilitator, I am not looking to make the guidelines for them. It's more or less, how does your mindfulness meditation practice look like, and how can I support you in having your practice look a little differently than what it looks like now? Because the connection between the two, I believe, mindfulness meditation and menstrual cycle awareness, along with a couple other things, emotional release being one of them, have led to this like really well-rounded um, toolbox for me and spiritual practice that I can't go a day without speaking to. Like, it is ingrained so deeply in me, and it's just who I am now, that I feel I'm just ready to help others step into if they feel called to it.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
So does someone have to have a certain level of meditation experience to join this?
Not at all.
Okay,
I think beginners are just as welcome as someone that is experienced in meditation.
good.
Um, it's so I've created a couple playlists for of mindfulness meditations that I feel are they're meditations for me that are letting you go within rather than take you away,
Okay,
right? I've seen a lot of meditations that are there to kind of let you journey elsewhere, and I'm looking to say, "Hey, come inside, see what's going on, acknowledge your emotions and your feelings." And I've created playlists, so I have references and resources that are ready for whoever is coming into the program to go ahead and take into their practice. And then I get to walk them through how they're holding themselves accountable
okay.
to the meditation practice that they would like to do.
And I'd like to say that from being a mindfulness instructor, and I know that you'll back me up on this. It can be a little intimidating because we have this Western idea that you flip the light switch and the light comes on. You can find a movie with all kinds of explosions on Netflix. There's always something that's supposed to happen, and when mindfulness is not about making something happen, it's about sitting and cutting through the noise. There's a whole long thing that goes with it, but I don't want people to be intimidated. I know you don't either. If so, mindfulness is really the focus here, but there's a whole lot more to it than that, right?
Mhm. Yeah, it's actually what I've heard from a couple people I've spoken to that are interested in the things I'm speaking of, but intimidated is the word that they've used. And it opened a new door for me to recognize that this is something that maybe I'm just starting to get comfortable speaking to, but how can I look back and see the self of me that was learning this stuff kind of behind closed doors and not ready to put it out there yet and really care for her? How can I take that and then care for other people that are joining that are still really soft and tender in that space that, like, I like where you're going, but, like, I still can't say some of the words out loud, and I don't know if I'm ready to commit to it yet. Um, and with that, I would say, let's just start with a conversation then,
Right.
because maybe this program isn't for you right now, um, but maybe there needs to be a, uh, a really safe space to start asking some questions.
Yeah.
Meaning me, like, maybe I can create a safe space for those questions that they have to arise, um, and be there to guide them through it.
Yeah. I'd also like to say that we have such a Western ideology of competition and results and goals, and I've really come to understand in the last few years that well, that I won't go off on that. I won't go to that off on that tangent. What I would just say to anyone who's thinking along these lines that they're not sure about mindfulness and not sure about meditation is really no. I don't want to say there's no right or wrong way to do it. There's no right or wrong way to start. It's just getting started that's the key. And no matter where you're at, you can always find your way. It's part of it. So there's no competition. There's no comparison against anyone else. You don't have to come in here and be a guru when you leave, or whatever the case may be. So I don't want to beat this to death. I just want to give people the confidence to know that mindfulness isn't something. It's not supposed to be intimidating. It's the antithesis of that everyone can do it from wherever you're at in life, and you should. You absolutely should. And Danny's going to tell you why in her class. You got to take her class to find out why. Can I can, can I read this real quick from your Flow Within?
Yeah.
All right. So I've taken this from your Facebook page, and I don't want to bore everybody and read the whole thing. Not that the words would bore, but my voice might bore them reading it. So you will be given the tools to set up your own sacred space in your home and develop a mindfulness meditation practice that supports your level of comfort and schedule. It's exactly what we were just talking about. As a group in the live weekly calls, we will curate a new relationship with the most anticipated time of the month. You will learn how to chart your cycle, notice the seasons, crossover days, and chambers of menstruation each month, and how your body speaks to you. I, or Dani, will guide you in recognizing and releasing judgment and shame around your body and your cycle beliefs. You will learn potent communication tools to share the fruits of your broadening awareness with your loved ones. So I just wanted to share that so people got a well-rounded idea. I mean, we've talked about all these things. I just wanted to put it. I thought you said it very nicely there, so I wanted to share.
I love that idea. Thank you for reading that. I sounded like I know what I'm talking about, whereas here I kind of like go all over the place and we just go la 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 la.
Well, people should know our conversations do that. We're supposed to be on the phone for an hour, and we'd end up on the phone for 2.5 hours every time, very easily. All right, so it's a live course.
It is a live course. We'll be meeting through Zoom, and it's not the same day each week. So I did this purposefully. We're meeting Monday nights, and then the following week will be Wednesday afternoon, and then Monday night, Wednesday afternoon, and alternating like that.
So you cycle through?
Well, moms, which I know is who I'm who I'm
It was a terrible
attracting
joke.
here.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. But our schedules are so off and so different these days that I felt giving everyone an opportunity to, if they couldn't meet one week at one time,
Sure.
they'd at least be able to be there every other week. So we'll be meeting 1 hour Zoom each week. Everyone will I'm thinking of adding in 1 or 2 coaching sessions, one-on-one coaching sessions to everyone that signs up throughout the 3 months.
Okay.
The reason for the 3 months together is so that we can see 3 full cycles. We can see patterns that may be evolving, right? That we could see.
Yeah.
And the cost is $450.
Okay.
For 3 months, which I think is a really reasonable investment to give yourself just a little over $100 a month.
We spend so much money on,
things that don't matter,
things
right?
that don't matter. We don't even know where it went,
Uh-huh.
I agree with you completely. All right. So where do they need to go? To your website here, The Wildfire Within?
You got it.
thewildfirewithin.com, or you can find Dani at and is your Facebook page, is it Dani Doran? Doran. Did it again,
Doran.
didn't I?
You
Dani
did.
Doran.
It's all right. I think it's Danielle Doran on Facebook, and on Instagram it's danielle.rose.doran. No, it's danny.rose.doran on Instagram.
Okay. On Instagram?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I will put a blog up on thebradleyhall.com too, with some links that people can find you there.
Awesome.
And I can't wait. You want to come back after you've done your first round and talk about how it went?
I would love to.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to have you back. So, okay. Anything you want to say before we go?
One last thing is everyone that signs up does get, I'll be sending out the book Wild Power. And then I'm also sending out a cycle journal. So
Awesome.
This has been something, and I didn't touch on this. I'm glad you read my description, because cycle journal is really what helped me understand the patterns that I was seeing. So in each journal gives you an opportunity to chart each of your, probably can't see, but your like symptoms, right?
Yeah.
And how you feel. So it's kind of tracking your emotions, how your body feels, your mental state, your physical being, maybe any practices that you are doing. So if you have a meditation practice or exercise practice, things like that, you get to monitor it And it's all linked also to the moon cycle that is all listed at the top here.
Wow. Okay.
And then there's a ton of excellent information. So not only is there journaling sections for each day, but each month they give you a really awesome like intro um, into some things that may assist you throughout your cycle or just assist you in being human. So this one is Herbal Allies for Painful Cycles. So it's a book that I found on Etsy. So Rachel Amber, I believe is her name. Rachel Amber. Um, but she connects everyone together. So in the back, there's a book of healing resources and directories of other menstruation coaches like myself or people that are tied to the healing arts. And so each piece in here of information is from somebody else also doing the work like myself. So I love the idea of community and how she really brought in a ton of people to create this one piece that I now get to send out to everybody else that's doing the program. So we're all kind of connected in that way.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Well, as always, it's a pleasure. And we could just keep this up forever, but we both have things to do.
We do.
But thank you again for coming on. And, we'll definitely have you back sooner rather than later.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I was so excited when you asked me again. So
Yeah,
this is great. And I get to kick off your new podcast.
That's
monthly.
Right. The 2021 version. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So
there you go.
Cool. So, all right. I got to go. My daughter's got to track meet.
Track meet.
Yeah. So thank you so much again. Always a pleasure. What I like about us is that we can not talk for 6 months and then hop back on here and pick up right where we left off. So
right.
That's pretty special. So I appreciate you. I just wanted you to know that.
Definitely. Thank you. I appreciate you.
You're welcome. So, and I'll let you know when it's coming out. Okay. Good luck. I'll
Thank
talk to you
you.
soon.
All right. Sounds good.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.